Praise Yahweh. Hallelujah. Total for this day, but truly this is the day that Yahweh has made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. I told Yahweh for blessing me to be able to minister to his people that got ears to hear what the Spirit is saying. And for this day that we're dealing with the things under the sun in the season thereof. Because this is the season of life. The fourth season in life, winter, fall, spring, and summer. And you don't know when the season of life will take your life from you and your world then it came to an end. So we praise him for the season of life that we can once again rejoice and be glad under the sun to do his will, not our will, but his will being done. And to do his will, we gonna have to have a spiritual mind. Because to be carnal mind is death. To be worldly and fleshly mind is death. But to be spiritual minded is life and peace. And I think everybody under the sun wants life and peace, but it's not bought with a price. You can't purchase silver and gold. You can't become what you think you want to become and trying to become a millionaire, billionaire, and think you're going to possess life and peace. It's vanity and vexation of spirit. You won't achieve it that way. It's through Yeshua HaMashiach that has to set you free from this world of sin and death, that you can be found in the righteousness of Yahweh and not yourself. This morning I want to talk about in the ministry, woe, woe, woe. There are three woes that I'm saying. And the three woes represent man, woman, and land. And Satan has taken his terrors of son and man and then replicate unto himself as son and man he using by his spirit, the spirit of iniquity, to dwell in the disobedient, to dwell in the one that has no fear or reverence of Yahweh. Even the demons fear concerning Yahweh. But the mind of people conscious is sealed with a high iron, that they don't have a fear of their maker and creator of the universe. Not just heaven and earth. The entire galaxy of the universe he created according to his will to represent his creation throughout the universe. And everything we say, see, and do and have our being, it comes from him. Woe, woe, woe. We're going to start out in the book of Exodus. And the war going to be dealing with what Satan has done to the people. They're competing against one another. They're fighting against each other in every way that can be done. But the woman is the weaker vessel. And she has taken her place, that she don't have a love for Yahweh. She got a love for herself and who she served, and that's sin. Not knowing what spirit she of, and some of them know what spirit they of because they practice witchcraft and sorcery. They practice all the things of familiar spirit, sermon up spirits. But this is the time of hour. In Revelation 3:10, Yeshua was talking to the assembly, and he said, because you have kept my word, I will also keep you from the hour of temptation that shall come upon the world and try all them that dwell upon the face of the earth. Well, everybody's being tried in this hour of temptation, this season of temptation. When the season of pure, women want to get naked and show their flesh in the lust thereof. Man want to get naked and show his flesh in the lust thereof. And they're showing it out to the people that will lust after them, which is sodomites, whores, and bastards. In the book of Exodus, chapter 1, and we're going to put a difference between these kind of men and the men of Yahweh and the women of Yahweh. And the first we're going to deal with the women. And they're going to end with the women. because we are in the season of life, and we're going to see why it's going to end with women. As it starts, the woe concerning women. Exodus chapter 1 verse 15. And the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwife, of which was the name of one Shaphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, when you get ready to serve as a midwife to the Hebrew women, your sisters, I want you to execute my judgment upon the male child. I want you to slay them, kill them. I don't want a male to live. And see them upon the stool. If it be a son, then you shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then you shall live. Then she shall live. Now the reason why he say if it be a daughter and she shall live is because what Isaiah gonna prophesy. And in the time of this right here taking place, Pharaoh made sure that he was killing every male child that took place. But the female was not a threat to him. The females have never been a threat to him. It's the male, the head of every woman is the man. Every woman don't know the man is head of her, but every woman knows that her desire is for the male, and he gonna rule over her. And his rulership shall be in righteousness and truth, to nourish and cherish her, and all things that he asks of her, for her to be obedient in these things, to obey her husband. But the midwife feared Yahweh. The midwife had a fear, a reverence toward Yahweh. They feared Yahweh. And when a woman fears Yahweh, she's not going to go astray from that love that she have in reverence from whom she's serving. Because she's serving her maker and creator with reverence and love, knowing that he's able to destroy both body and soul, not just the soul and leave the body. He's able to deal with both of them at the same time, when he want to, how he want to, and where he want to. So there's nowhere you can go and hide from his presence that he won't deal with both of you, your body and soul. So the midwife had a love, a reverence, a fear for her maker. She was that kind of woman that feared her maker. But the midwife feared Yahweh and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the man-child children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwife and said unto them, why have you done this thing and have saved the men children alive? Asking that question. Why you done these things? Why you saved the man-child alive? The males. Why you save them alive? Did not I command you, if it be a male killing? If it be a female, you can save her. And the midwife said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively, they are strong. Before I even want to get there to do anything like that, they already had delivered their child sitting upon the stool. The child had came forth and they can move on. They're not like the Egyptian women. The Egyptian women want to go into Egypt and get every kind of test tube put on them, every kind of experiment done to them, to try to see what gonna come out first, male or female. Well, they had none of those equipment back then. They had nothing that they can try to see whether it's male or female. They just know they had a child in their womb from the man that they was with. And when they brought forth that child, their sister, the midwife, Hebrew, was right there to assist them in childbearing. But the midwife feared Yahweh. They didn't fear Pharaoh. They didn't fear the king of Egypt. For they are lively, and of deliverer the midwife delivered the child, the midwives come unto them. Before the midwife got into them, the child was already delivered. Therefore Yahweh dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. And that's what Pharaoh was afraid of. how the Hebrews were going to multiply and become mighty and strong, because they was already strong because they had a strong mother in delivering them. They already had the will of Yahweh in them, that they was not going to do anything to their body to take away Yahweh will in the child that going to be born through them and from them. And it came to pass, because the midwife feared Yahweh, that he made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive. Now the reason why the daughter was no threat, and he wanted the daughters unto himself, to plant his seed into the female. To use the female to crossbreed. So if it be once he done destroyed all the Hebrews, then his male children can come out and keep his kingdom going forth as Egyptian to Egypt, to Pharaoh, not to Yahweh. The Hebrews served Yahweh. The Egyptians served Pharaoh. So there was a difference between, as we go through this, the Hebrew women and the Egyptian women. The Egyptian women are the ones that care for the world. And all of this woe right here, you're going to see how this took place. Because it began to multiply. Women began to increase upon the face of the earth. Because they were spared. Pharaoh spared them. And they continued to bring forth daughters unto Pharaoh. And there were few daughters being born unto Yahweh. And when King Herod came with Yeshua, the same thing took place again. That he was destroying all the male children 2 years and under. So before we even deal with that, that was just for you to know it happened again in the earth. Not only with Pharaoh doing it, but with King Herod doing it at the time of Yeshua's birth. But we're going over in the book of Isaiah. In the book of Isaiah, we're going to see what took place here. Chapter 4. And you're going to see how Isaiah was saying this about the birth and what the women's attitude was in this right here. And we're going to see how this thing got out of order. This is the woe. Woe unto man that has one of these women in their midst, because they ain't gonna love you. They don't know what love is. They know what their body want and what their mind can do with a man. And the man is their enemy, because they don't want to submit themselves to a man. They don't want to be up under the authority of a man. And you got three spirits that we're going to deal with here. And I'm going to take my time so the spirit can cut asunder to the joint, to the marrow, of the discern of the thought and the intents of the mind, the heart. So a woman is without excuse if she don't repent and turn from her evil and wicked ways, the ways that she know not of, but she keep doing things that is displeasing in the sight of Yahweh by her attitude and behavior. In the book of Isaiah chapter 4 verse 1. In that day, and what day that going to be? Isaiah declaring, in that day, when you see the numbers begin to increase, that the woman has surpassed the man. And now, in this year, 2024, they saying 8 billion upon the earth. They're saying that it's almost 8 to 9 women to 1 man in this country, the United States. And I ain't talking about the rest of the world. I'm just talking about the United States. So women are going shopping to try to find a man. And if a woman don't know how to keep her man, she will steal that man from her, for she can have sports with that man. It's not about love. It's about sport, entertainment, fulfilling their lustful desire. Because the Hebrew women fear Yahweh, they can't get that man from Yahweh. Because it's just like Zacharias and Elizabeth. Elizabeth and Zacharias in the time of Johanna, John, birth, both of them was of the Levitical priesthood, his mother and father. And being of the Levite priesthood, they was righteous people from the beginning. And they brought forth a righteous son at the beginning. And that righteous son was none like him. John, the prophet, that was in the wilderness preparing the way for Yeshua to come to take away the sin of the world. But he had righteous parents of Abba and Emma, father and mother, that stayed before Yahweh and did everything that was righteous in the sight of Yahweh, because they had the priesthood in them, which we supposed to be a royal priesthood, holy people, set apart people. And we're supposed to bring forth righteous children. That going to show you the fruit of your doing. It's going to show you what you've been doing, what fruit going to manifest from your doing. And if you've been doing evil, don't look for a good tree. You look for you're going to reap what you sow. Because if you sowed that seed going to bring forth your fruit unto you. And you're going to have to bring it up in the way it should go. So that means even in your iniquity and sin, you still got a chance, space to bring it up in the way it should go. If you come to Yahweh and serve him. If you repent and be born again and get out of the mess that you're in, the mess that Satan will put you in, you can recover yourself from the snare of the devil. But this is what took place that Isaiah said. And in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread. That means the bread can come from them. They can make their own bread. They can gather their own wheat. They can do their own things by themselves. They don't need the labor of a man. They're going to do it without you. With the attitude they're going to have concerning their doing. Not Yahweh doing no more. They're doing. And wear our own appearance. That's why you can't stop a woman from coming out of the house. You can go to the mall everywhere with her and stuff. When she starts shopping, she's shopping to show her nakedness. Her enticing spirit. Because she's an Egyptian woman. She of that spirit of iniquity. She's not a Hebrew woman. They're going to want to cover herself up and keep her head covered. She's not going to glory in her hair. Her charismatic. She's not going to glory in her car that she loved but can't love her back. She's not going to glory in her house that she loved but the house can't love her back. The Hebrew woman glory in Yahweh that will love her back and protect her from all evil. And she'll have that same kind of man, just like Zechariah and Elizabeth. They'll get in one accord and bond so they can be upright before Yahweh in childbearing and bring up the child in the way they should go. That's the will of Yahweh for our human race. But there's another race among us that is not human. Those are fallen angels. And they have taken the women and made them rebelling heifers. Rebelling in their own stiff-necked pride and sinful nature. That they will do the things that they do without a conscience concerning a man. Because the head of every woman is the man. And the head of every man is Yeshua. And Yeshua give his authority unto his Abba, his father that sent him to do his will. So if we're going to be done, the woman cannot say, I'm going to wear my own parents and I'm going to get my own bread. I'm going to put on my own fashion design clothes. I'm going to be doing this and doing that. I don't need you. Only thing I need you for is this. Only let us be called by your name to take away our reproach that they never been married. They don't want to be considered. They never been married in life as a virgin woman. I need a man, last name. I need to get away from my father inherit of his name and take another man name under me. So that way my reproach be taken away. So you see, you're dealing with spirits of iniquity. And we're going to have to deal with the spirit. And I say there are three. There's Jezebel, Delilah, and Vashti, queen, in the book of Esther. These three spirits is operating in the women today. And man can't discern it because he's blind by the lust and desire of his nature that he have no self-control. To think with his mind and to act with his mind concerning righteousness and truth. So righteousness and truth will set him free from the spirit of sin and death that a woman can bring him when he enter into her on sexual pleasure. So to be sober-minded, you have to think with your mind. Ask questions concerning what spirit you finna deal with in a woman. And the Hebrew women always gonna ask questions concerning what mind a man got in him before she even considered putting herself in that position with a man that don't fear Yahweh as she fear him. And I'm not talking about no religion woman, no spiritual woman, no woman that go to church, no woman that is in the congregation of the assembly of Hebrews, Islam, any denomination or non-denomination. Any one woman that don't have her head covered first, that's a woe. That's a woe to you, man. If that woman don't have her head covered, she's glorying in her flesh. And if she being taught, then she rebel against it. She rebelling against Yahweh and the man that she say gonna govern her in righteousness and truth. That's your first woe that you should acknowledge and understand now, because you might not knew from the beginning. You might not have no understanding that a woman should always have her head covered, that her hair would not be interfering with the glory of Yahweh dealing with man. That Yahweh present would not be seen because distraction is taking place of the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, and the pride of life. So we're going to deal with the first one here, Delilah. Because Delilah did something to Samson that the men couldn't do to Samson. Delilah did something that the Philistine had to consider, that this man's strength is more powerful than 30 men of us. But he got a lust spirit that we can use against him that is more powerful than his own strength. And that's the strength of a woman that can entice him. Now, in my last podcast, I began to tell you about a familiar spirit. Everything is dealing with spirits. This is a seen and unseen world. There's an inhabitation of spirits all around us. And if you don't think so, examine yourself and prove your own self whether you be in the truth or not. And you'll see that you're reprobate. So, here we is with Delilah in the book of Judges. And I'm going to take my time with you. So there'll be no excuse that you didn't come into the will of Yahweh concerning your righteousness, concerning your truth, concerning what you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do. Because if you're not a unit, then you're going to have a desire for a woman. But your desire can be ruled over. It can be sustained because the mind will be in control of the body and not the body in control of the mind. That means the flesh over the spirit. The spirit will be over the flesh and it will bring it subject to the will of Yahweh. But the flesh is not subject to the will of Yahweh. Neither indeed can be. So here you is at the state of woe. You got trouble all around you. And you thought you were loving somebody, but they wasn't loving you back. You thought you had a wife or girlfriend you want to marry and become of your name, and that you was going to be responsible for her, yet you didn't see a warfare is taking place between you and her in words being said, because deed and attitude is sitting dormant right now. Your lust is all up in the flesh. Desiring one another to defile one another in fornication or adulteries. And with that, you can't see the spirit sitting, waiting for the opportunity to destroy both of you or one of you. But the women know what spirit they serve. They're not serving Yahweh. They don't fear Yahweh now. You're dealing with an Egyptian woman. And out of Egypt came these kind of spirits, because before Egypt, the people of old, in the time of Noah, in the time of Abraham and Sarah, they was already worshiping the queen of heaven, the women. Satan had already introduced to them a spirit that was in heaven as a female goddess that they needed to worship, to be blessed in, for the fertility of the ground, for their corn, their wheat, and everything and stuff, for their sexual desire and the man they want. They worship the queen of heaven. Familiar spirits was already taking place. So it came on down. And came on down and kept moving. The spirit, every time a generation pop up, the spirit pop up with it. One die off and another one come forth. The same thing until they didn't got here to us. And yet man, without his maker, without salvation, can't discern what spirit he dealing with in a woman. And the first woe is she don't have a head covering. You should take heed. But you should know these things if you're seeking and hungering and thirsting after righteousness to be filled. So I'm reading to you now in the book of Judges, 16th chapter. This was Samson was in Gaza, and he saw a harlot, and he went into her. Chapter 1, verse 1. 16th chapter, verse 1. And when Samson went into the harlot, he was playing whoremongering spirit. He was playing with those spirits. He had a whoremongering spirit in him as a man. And with that whoremongering spirit, he left his fear toward Yahweh. Reverence, respect for his body as well as another woman's body. When a man don't fear Yahweh, he can't respect the temple of Yahweh in his own witness as a man. He become a whoremonger. That means he'll whore after anything that he can get to for his own pleasure and desire to be fulfilled with the lust thereof. So Samson was a whoremonger. He couldn't rule over his own spirit. He played with fire and got burnt. But he cried out to his maker and creator for vengeance. He didn't want to die in a sport arena that they were making sport and mocking his creator with their God, with their deity, their idols, their images, everything that they worship in Dagon. They wanted to mock Samson, creator. Let's read here and see what happened. And it was told the Gazite, saying, Samson is come hither, and they compassed him in, and laid wait for him all night in the gate of the city, and were quiet all the night, saying, in the morning, when it is day, we will kill him. And Samson lay till midnight, and arose at midnight, and took the door of the gate of the city, and the 2 posts, and went away with them, bars and all, and put them upon his shoulders, and carried them up to the top of a hill that is before Hebron. And it came to pass afterward that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorah, whose name was Delilah. And this was Satan knew. He couldn't fight him in his strength, or fight him in his weakness. And that's when Satan knows when you're weak, you're away from your creator. You don't have the spirit to ask questions concerning who you have just met as a stranger. You just met her. You're afraid to ask any question because you might turn her off. But if you don't ask a question, you're going to turn her on. And you will never be able to turn her off again. And the Lord's, verse 5, and the Lord of the Philistine came up unto her and said unto her, entice him. Now this spirit that you don't understand, mankind, manhood, you don't understand an enticing spirit. Because the spirit can go in male or female. It's a spirit. And Satan knows how to transform his angels as minister of light. And he can keep them in the darkness of their own spirit and go forth in their own name or what spirit they are. So the Philistine is saying to Delilah, entice him and see where his great strength lies. Now I told you over in 2 Chronicle, 18th chapter. I shared that with you, and I told you in ministering to you, spirits. And this is verse 18, chapter 2 Chronicle, verse 19. And Yahweh said, and this is what took place. I'll stop that because it is in my other podcast concerning spirits. Verse 18. I started 17 for you to get a clear understanding. But you can read this. Please. Take the time and read what I be skipping, because I'm trying to make sure I have time that you don't get weary in hearing about the kingdom of Yahweh. Some of you. Because some of you get weary. Yet you're trying to convince everybody you're going to heaven when you die. You're not. If you can't spend time here on earth to hear the scripture being read to you about your ways and attitude of changing, amending, and to strengthen you and to be strong in the day of the battle. And the battle is here right now before you, and you're battling day in and day out because you have no rest for your soul. But you say now that you don't want to hear all this. You can't hear it in heaven because it's heavenly sent. You won't enter in. You won't make it in. Because your ears are dull of hearing. And you get offended because of the truth. And you take it personal because the truth will set you free and you don't want to be free. You enjoy the pleasure of sin. Those who say, I can't bear 1 or 2 hours to hear the scripture being read. Yet you can bear 2, 3, 4 hours, 5 hours in a nightclub, in a strip bar, in a whorehouse, in a sport arena. You can sit down and entertain yourself many hours. You don't know you're going to reap what you sow. You don't know you're going to be cast out before Yeshua and say, depart from me, ye workers of iniquity, I never knew you. Because you never knew him. Verse 17, and the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, did I not tell you that he would not prophesy good unto me, but evil? That's the question. The Micah, he was saying, would speak evil of him concerning prophesying. What was going to happen in the battle that he inquired the prophet to say that it was going to be good for him. Because his false prophet all told him it would be good. Go up to the battle. You'll get the victory. But King Jehoshaphat said, I need someone to tell me the truth. I need someone that I know I can hear the truth from, regardless of the situation or the circumstance. Let me hear the truth. And again he said, therefore hear the words of Yahweh. This is Micah speaking unto him. I saw Yahweh sitting upon his throne, and all the hosts of heaven standing on his right hand and on his left. And Yahweh said, who shall entice Ahab, king of Israel, that he may go up and fall at Ramelon, Galilee? And one spoke, saying after this mountain, another saying after that mountain. They didn't know what form they can take to go down there and entice him with. Because they was angels. They didn't have that form yet to do anything without permission of Yahweh. So they had to know what they was going to use to entice Ahab with. But one spirit came from his throne and said, then came out a spirit and stood before Yahweh and said, I will entice him. And Yahweh said unto him, wherewith? Ask him that question. What tool is you going to use out of heaven? What is you going to take from up here to go down there with in this manner and entice him? How are you going to perform this? And he said, I will go out and be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. And Yahweh said, you shall entice him, and you shall also prevail. Go out and do even so. See, when the Philistine told Delilah, entice Samson for us, the Philistine knew they couldn't beat him in battle with strength and power. But Samson was weak in the flesh of his own desire, dealing with lust of a woman that was beautiful to him. Beautiful women that you see, that you think is beautiful, you have error in your eyes by being deceived, because Yahweh beautified the meek with salvation. That means he preserved their soul. He preserved their temple. He preserved them in their going out and coming back in for this day forth, even forevermore. So their beauty is not with makeup. It's not with the what they want to put on and dress themselves in, because they want to wear their own appearance, their own clothing. They want to eat their own bread. so that when they put on their makeup and go out the door, they're already in the rape spirit. They're naked. And they want to be looked upon in their nakedness. The hope that some man will desire them, even if they don't want the man. They're causing the man to transgress in his own mind with his own imagination. Hear me and hear me well. There's a woe out here. And the woe means trouble to you that are void of understanding. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And with all you're getting, get understanding. Don't be void of it. Let's read on here. And see where his great strength lies, and by what means we may prevail against him, that we may bind him to afflict him. And we will give you every one of us 1,100 pieces of silver. They're going to make her rich, filthy as you want to be. Do you know every woman that is in a concert of her own performing before you, don't you understand? Do you have any kind of understanding that she is naked before you? She performing for you in nakedness. She has to show some kind of body figure of her body to entice you to be at her concert, to spend that kind of money so you can look upon her nakedness as she sings songs of death unto you. And yet you don't understand that you're being enticed. You're being drawn in. You've been given over to a spirit that can draw you with your imagination, imagining what you can do. Then you get back to a secret place that you think ain't nobody seeing you and looking at you, and you begin to fulfill the desires of your flesh because you can't get the one you just seen or you went and got entertained by. It's there before you now, the woe. So the Philistine knew they can get Samson in his weakness because he had a whoremongering spirit. Yet he was of Yahweh. He was a judge. Part of the judges in Israel, the tribe of Dan. The same tribe I'm part of. But yet, my fear toward Yahweh, there's no flush. Because see, I sat down and count the cost. I'm persuaded that neither death nor life, nor principality, nor power, nor thing present, nor thing to come, nor any other creature would be able to separate me from the love of Yeshua, that he reconciled me back to Abba, my Father, my creator and maker of the universe. I got persuaded. Not by religion and denomination, just by me obeying his voice. And the voice that I obeyed was amend my way. To turn, I needed to be reconciled back to him. And Yeshua was the mediator between man and maker. That I can walk upright in my integrity. And freely I receive this, and freely I'm giving it back. Because I don't want no one blood be required upon my hand, that I spared you in the day that I ministered unto you. We'll read on here. You seen what took place with the lion spirit in the book of 2 Chronicles, spirit that came to Ahab, Jezebel's wife. And we'll deal with Jezebel because I'm going to get to her and the other in book of Esther, the queen, Vesta. And we're going to see how this took place right here. All this took place in verse 9. Because I'm going to skip some as you read it. Now there was men lying in wait and abiding with her in the chamber. And she said unto him, the Philistine be upon you, Samson. And he broke the whip as a thread of tow is broken with, it touches the fire. so his strength was not known. Now this was dealing with the wife that Samson had got right here from the Philistine. And she enticed her husband to tell him where his strength lies. But he lied unto her. He lied in telling the strength because he couldn't tell the truth. If he did, the truth was going to mess him up. Because he played with fire. And he should have known better not to lead the Hebrew women. He was there for a reason, for a season, to do Yahweh's will. There was beautiful Hebrew women there that had salvation in them in serving Yahweh. He went outside of his salvation, went outside of his inheritance, and he wanted to play the folly with his enemies. And when you don't know who your enemy is, your enemy gonna get advantage of you because you're not aware of your surrounding. You're not aware. So Samson, by being in that spirit that they was enticing him in, the women, his wife, Delilah, this is what took place right here. Verse 13. And Delilah said unto Samson, Hereto you hast mocked me and told me lies. Tell me wherewith you may be bound. And he said unto her, If you weave the 7 lock of my head with the well. You see, he entertaining that spirit. And entertaining that spirit, he don't see what is taking place. But I'm going to read to you. So this I'm going to go back in chapter 14, verse 15. Turn back, chapter 14, verse 15. And you'll see how this spirit dealing with the wife, the Philistine, said that. Verse 15. And it came to pass on the 7th day that they said unto Samson's wife, Entice your husband, that he may declare unto us the riddle, lest we burn you and your father's house with fire. Have you called us to take that we have? Is it not so? So the Philistine, his wife that he got from them, they're already saying, you're going to entice your husband before we can find this riddle, so he don't take from us what we got to give you. And if you don't entice him, we're going to kill your father, your mother, your whole house. We're going to burn it down. So she was committed to entice him to do this. And when that took place right there, you see why this was taking place right here. Here comes another spirit. Came to Delilah and saying entice him, because they failed with the first enticement. But they didn't leave the course. They stayed the course because they knew he was a whoremonger. He loved to play sports with women. So here come Delilah, beautiful. Not knowing what's going to take place with a beautiful woman. Let's see over in the book of Proverbs. Because Samson didn't have anything but the law. And he had the spirit of Yahweh. But he didn't have the spirit of understanding. He had the strength of Yahweh. But he didn't have wisdom. Not to mess with his enemy and take him that close to his bosom. And now how I'm going to tie this in with you dealing with today is through what I'm finna read to you. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 20. And we're going to read down here and see in verse 27. My son, keep your father's commandment and forsake not the law of your mother. Bind them continually about your mind. It's in hard. And tie them about your neck. When you go, it shall lead you. And when thou sleepest, it shall keep you. And when you awake, it shall talk with you. That's the commandments of Yahweh. In the spirit of his ministering to your mind, communicating with you in your mind. For the commandment is what? Is a lamp, and the law is light, and reproof of instruction of the way of life. Now, Samson got reproof because his mother and father tried to tell him, why are you going outside of the Hebrews to mess around with the Egyptian, the Philistine? Why are you going outside to play in the fire of your enemies when you should be here doing the law of Yahweh on behalf of us? That's what you were chosen for. That's what you was given your strength for. So in the time of battle, nothing will come between you and your maker. Because in the time of battle, you can't let no woman come between you. You got to know who that woman is before you give away yourself in the midst of a stranger. To keep you from the evil woman, from the flattering of the tongue of a strange woman. So when she come to you, she gonna flatter you with her tongue, saying everything it is to entice you. And when that take place, it gonna be there. So when this take place, most people don't really understand the message of a strange woman. The man don't. Because she gonna flatter you with her tongue. She can tell you anything. She need help. She destituted. She been this and that and stuff. In the position you been by yourself, she flattering you with her words. But she also showing you her body desire in the midst of you. Lust not after her beauty in your mind. Neither let her take you with her eyelid, because she can easily take you with her eyelids. So you got to guard against your mind, because out of it is the issue of life. Say guard against your heart. Proverbs. Proverbs 4:23. Keep your mind, your heart, with all diligence. See, you got to be in self-control. You got to know how to keep your mind with all diligence. For all of it are the issues of life. And your life can be in the hand of a stranger that is taking it right out of your mind, because you're lusting after her beauty. You design her flesh, and she's enticing you with the words that you want to hear, because you might can help her in everything that she's saying, but you're going to lose something in return in giving it to her, because she is a enticing spirit. Enticing spirit. To entice you away from your present going. Let's read on. For by means of a whorish woman, a man is brought to a piece of bread. A piece of bread was the lowly and the smallest thing dealing with finance that you have, you can purchase. If you get down to a penny, you still can get a penny with it. The bread by a slice or by broken in half. And that's how much you are worth to her, a whorish woman. Like a piece of bread. And if you don't understand that, it's because you're void of understanding concerning. You are lusting. And when lust conceive, it bring forth sin. And when sin finish, it worketh death. It's going to work death. The wages of sin is death. So the more you entangle yourself with her, the more death is coming, pursuing after you to slay you in your sin. Or it ain't going to spare her neither. It'll get her. But it don't want to get her yet because it's destroying man by her. That's why Pharaoh didn't destroy the women. He can use her often and often and often and often times, more and more and more and more than he can a man. Because a man's mind is closer than Yeshua than a woman is. The woman's mind is closer to the man. So when a woman take a man, she want that man to be closer to her maker. So he won't mistreat her. He won't lie to her, deceive her. He won't do anything to cause his image and likeness of a man to be disapproved. But when a man failed his mind, it's because he wasn't honest with himself and what happened to him. He wasn't honest. And if she find out that he wasn't honest, even though it might hurt her and afflict her, he told her the truth from the beginning. And she can accept it. She can understand that he failed, but he was truthful. If he failed and told a lie, he failed and lied. Lie means deceive, mislead, taking something that you should have considered to be honest with, that you failed. Because if you fail, Yahweh still will uphold you with the right hand of his righteousness so you can recover yourself out of the snare of the devil. But you got to be honest. So here we is here. This is what's taking place. If you don't understand this, ask. Know what's going on. And we will see the matter of void of understanding. All right? By means of a whorish woman, a man is brought to a piece of bread, and the adulteress will hunt for the precious life. And that means a woman that already left a man, she's an adulteress. She's hunting for your precious life. She already got experience with one man she done left. You just another man in the way that she can bring down. Because you don't ask questions. You been flattering by her tongue. You been flattering by her ways. Let's read on. Can a man take fire in his bosom and his clothes not be burned? No. And this is what happened to Samson. He took Delilah to his bosom and he got burnt. Let's go back over here. And we're going to see how this began to manifest here. Verse 15, Judges chapter 16, verse 15. And she said unto him, how can you say I love you when your mind is not with me? She asked him that question. How can you say you love me when your mind is not with me? The first thing enticing spirit want to do is to get your mind with the body in the situation that you're in. And if you're in a situation that you want to go to bed with a woman, fulfill your sexual desire with her, then you got to get something there with her that gonna please her what you're saying. You got to get one with her. But you don't know you're getting one with a familiar spirit, an enticing spirit, a lying spirit, a spirit that will cause you great harm for your soul, for your life. You have mocked me these 3 times, and has not told me wherein your great strength lies. And it came to pass when she pressed him daily with her words, and urged him so, that his soul was vexed unto death, that he told her all his heart. He couldn't guard against his heart where the issue of life was coming from. What I read to you in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. Guard against your mind with all diligence, for out of it is the issue of life. He couldn't guard it. He was vexed so much. He was tired. He was troubled. He began to say everything, anything. He just wanted her to stop. Leave him alone. And this was Satan know he can entice you with. Vexation. He can use all the things that he got, distraction. Get you weary. Get you tired. And come at you. When you done had a long day, and come at you. Because you still in the flesh. You can't see him. You can't smell it. You can't hear it. But you can see the fruit of his doing, his works. And you don't take heed. You don't take heed. Well, you said, preacher, how do I? Don't take heed. Because there's someone else that been burned. Someone else has that happen to them. And you say that couldn't happen to me. I'm wiser than him. He's a weak man. But the same whoremongering spirit, one desire, the lust, made him go astray. One desire of a woman with a flattering tongue made him go astray. One desire of anything made him go astray. And you don't know when you're visiting in that season that you may go astray. Because if you don't have Yeshua rooted and grounded in his judgment of the Holy Spirit, you can't judge that matter with a strange woman. You can't discern her because there's no judgment before her. It's going to happen to you too. Go back in the book of Proverbs, 7th chapter. We're going to see right here what took place here. 7th chapter, verse 1. And how did this apply to Samson? He took fire into his bosom and he got burnt. And we're going to see how this took place in Proverbs chapter 7, verse 1. My son, keep my words and lay up my commandments with you. Keep my commandment and live. And my law is the apple of your eye. Bind them upon your finger, write them upon the table of your heart, your mind. And say unto wisdom, you are my sister, and call understanding your kind woman, your kin woman. Someone that is dear to you, that is close to you, embracing you in all their love. That's a love that won't let you go astray. And that's the love that you should have for your maker, because your maker have that for you. But if you reject him, he'll reject you. That they, now notice this in verse 5, that they, wisdom and understanding, may keep you from the strange woman. You see it again, the strange woman, because every one woman you meet outside of your wife, or your mother, or your sister, is a strange woman. She's a strange woman. If she's not your mother, your sister, or your wife, she's a strange woman. And you should have wisdom and understanding that you have made a covenant, a vow unto your maker on behalf of your first wife. That you're not going to be in the midst of a strange woman that you cannot speak the word of judgment. That means you got to judge the matter of her coming to you or you meeting her. You better judge that matter. You better let judgment come forth in righteousness and truth, because truth will set you free from her. Let's read on. Strange woman from the stranger, which flattered with her word. Same thing, Proverbs 6 chapter. The other woman, that horse woman. For at the window of my house I looked through my casement, and beheld among the simple ones, I discerned among the youth a young man void of understanding. Now this woman was spying, looking for a young man void of understanding. It was like she was flying up on high in her casement, her attic, looking down in the street, looking down below and see the body of a male coming her way. And she already discerned he was void of understanding. So what did she do? And beheld among the simple one, I discerned among the youth. She discerned among the youth a man void of understanding, passing through the street near her corner. And he went the way to her house. He followed her to her house. He had no judgment, void of understanding. He was enticed, void of understanding. Followed her to her place, void of understanding. Had no wisdom, because wisdom is a defense. He had no defense because there was no judgment. He was already discerning and didn't even know it, that he was prey for the flesh to eat on. Let's read on. In the twilight, in the evening, in the black and in dark night. And she knew he was void of understanding on her street corner. He was looking for lust. He was enticed. He was laden with sin, void of understanding. Just like you men that can go to church and go to entertainment. They can go any other place and spend your money and do the things that you want to do. You don't know that you finna meet a woman that can make her own bread and wear her own clothes. She only looking for a man to take away her reproach. And if her reproach is taken away, she's an adulterous woman. She don't have nothing for you but to slay you, fillet you, fillet you like a fish, skin you alive. Because you're void of understanding. You shouldn't be over her. She should be over you. But that's not the order of Yahweh. But that's the order she can make it. Because she'll make you the weaker vessel when you're void of understanding. Let's read on. And beheld there met him a woman which had the attire, the clothing, the looks of an harlot, and carnal of mind. The same thing. She's carnal of mind. She's crafty, very slick, very sly, willing, moving all around you. She is loud and stubborn. Her feet abide not in her house. She had a house, a dwelling place, but it don't abide there. She's on the street looking for her prey. So she called him and kissed him, and with an impudent face said unto him, I have peace offering with me this day. I have paid my vows. Therefore came I forth to meet you, diligent to seek your face, and I have found you. I'm looking for somebody that's going to pay me money, give me what I want, and desire what I want from him. I have decked my bed with covering of tapers and carving with carving works with fine linen of Egypt. Spirit coming out of Egypt. Egyptian women are not like the Hebrew women. Pharaoh found that out. And you're dealing with an Egyptian woman that came out of Egypt. All these spirits came out from Cleopatra. She was a beautiful, astonished black woman, full of evil and corruption like a black cobra snake, king cobra. And she struck down many men in her midst. The Roman couldn't do nothing with her. Her beauty enticed them in every kind of way it was that they would not go invade or destroy Egypt. Long as Cleopatra was there, her beauty was to be desired by man. She blinded them with her lust and desire in her words. Come, let us take our fill of love into the what? Verse 17. I have performed my bed with myrrh, olive, aloe, and cinnamon. Come, let us take our fill of love into the morning. Let us salute ourselves with love. And you know what that is. It's not love of Yahweh. It's the flesh that desired in heat through all the night fulfill their own passion of desire. For the good man is not at home. You see, he was a good man, but good don't save you. He was a good man and should have been at home with his wife or his family or his maker. But he wasn't. The good man is not at home. He is gone a long journey. He went far away from his dwelling. He didn't want this to be seen of no one where he was at. His secret place was to find entertainment from a whore. And many men is gone from this world. The world has came to an end by being in the midst of a whore. And you'll see the reason. He had taken a bag of money with him and will come home at the day appointed when he get a chance, if he make it there. With her much fair speech, she caused him to yell. With the flattering of her lips, she forced him. He go after her straight away as an ox go to the slaughter, and as a fool to the correction of the stock. Void of understanding. Till a dart strike through his liver, as a bird hastens to the snare, and knows not that it is for his life. He didn't know what kind of woman, stranger, he was dealing with, that he met. He was the prey. Verse 24. Hearken, listen unto me now, therefore, O you children, and attend to the words, listen unto the words of my mouth. Let not your mind decline to her ways. Go not astray in her paths. If you know that street corner down there has a lot of hollers, or that town down below you got a lot of hollers, or you know you're going through a place that there are a lot of hollers, don't go that way. If you're not strong enough to keep going straight through, try to avoid it, because you don't know which woman you'll see that might entice you to turn in, to go there. Because remember, it's an enticing spirit. It's a spirit that can entice you. For she had cast down many wounded. Many got wounded by her. Yes, many strong men have been slain by her. By her. Don't know they're walking into a trap. Don't know what kind of trap is laid for them. Don't know death is waiting on them. They're void of understanding. Her house is the way to hell. the grave, the pit, going down to the chamber of death. Her chamber is going down to death, just like an elevator take you down. The chamber of the elevator take you down, and you get off at the floor at the bottom, first a basement. Well, death is basement. Even the hospital put their dead in the basement. That's what Satan wants you to be, in the basement, because you can't repent in the basement. You can't do anything. You got to give account how you got slain and who slain you and for what reason you died before your time. Let's read back over here. For we can get Samson on through with this enticing spirit. Because as I said, there's more. And the three spirits is woe, woe, woe. Man, woman, and land. Let's read on. As you see this right here where I stopped at, verse 17 and 18, the Philistine gave Delilah the money and stuff, and she made him sleep upon her knees. Verse 19, when Samson awoke, in verse 20, verse 21, the Philistine had him and put his eyes out. Now they knowing that Samson, their enemy, had fell victim to an enticed spirit, because they didn't stop following him, pursuing after him. And when you have that kind of strength, without ruling over your spirit, without prayer and intercession, the strength, as Nehemiah 8:10 say, you have no need to be sorrowful, for the joy of Yahweh is your strength. When you got joy in the camp, in the strength of your maker among your people that worship Yahweh in spirit and in truth, no idols, no image, no fall, any kind of deity of any kind of idols and anything, you got strength. But don't leave the camp to go out and pursue your enemy by yourself. That's why Yeshua took his disciples out, his followers out 2 by 2, for they can strengthen one another in their journey. And if you are not one of Elijah or Enoch or Daniel, the rest of the Hebrew men, you ain't got no business going out by yourself. If you ain't Joshua, if you ain't Moshe, if you ain't none of these men, you ain't got no business going out by yourself. If you meet a strange woman on the street and she entices you to come to her house, she only giving you the flattering words that you need to hear to come that way into her. But you don't know the end of is death. There's a way to seem right into a man, but the end does the way of death. It seemed right to you go because she's inviting you. It seemed right for you to enter into her place because she invited you. But you don't know who her guest is in her place that invited you. You don't know the enticing spirit has came to you to invite you to her place, that she can make sport on you. Verse 22, they bind him, verse 21, bound him with feather of brass, and he did grind in the prison house. However, when his hair grew back, you see that the Lord of the Philistine had a feast. They want to offer Samson up into their idol, because they were idol worshippers. And they know that they can do one thing that nobody else did with this kind of man. They can make sport after him. They can make sport with him to entertain them. And that's what they did. They made sport after him. How they rejoiced in Dagon, their identity, and to rejoice. And for they said, our idol have delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hand. And all this took place right here. And they began to make sport. Verse 25. And it came to pass when their heart was merry that they said, call for Samson, and he may make us sport. And they called for Samson out of the prison house, and he made them sport, and they set him between the pillars. Now they made sport for him. He made sport for them. He was blind and chained and feathered. The only thing he wanted was revenge. He didn't have to go down that street. That humongous spirit took him down there. He departed from his maker. He had to leave the earth. Yahweh gave him back his sight in the matter of filling the pillars to know what he felt through his filling sight. But his eyes was put out. His hair grew back. But vengeance is mine, said Yahweh, I shall repay. You can't stay there among them. You can't be with them. You got to leave the earth because you disobeyed my instruction. And this is what happened with people that when they get out of the will of Yahweh, when they don't understand the will of Yahweh, they don't listen to him, they have to leave the earth. The world has came to an end. Not the world that these people keep saying, oh, all these things are taking place. It's so dark time and evil and everything. All of them that say that, their world come to an end tomorrow. And that's the world that came to an end to them. But the earth is still abide. Because the meek shall inherit the earth. They'll build a new heaven and a new earth wherein dwell righteousness and peace. But this earth is his footstool. You will leave his footstool before his footstool leave him. In the book of Esther, we're going to the book of Esther. Because, once again, we're dealing with the three woes. And I'm going to try to get through it because if I can't get through it, I have to stop. Yahweh know I take up Jezebel, the last one, because I'm going to need time to work on that flesh. And I ain't in no hurry by no means whatsoever to minister this word unto you. But if it take me all day to the night, she will be made manifest, her deeds that she is doing right now as Delilah enticing spirit. Now here come the other side, second spirit. Because we got to see how the earth moan with these spirits in the midst of it. How the land is defiled, need healing. The land need healing. You got women that should be at home, got executive job, making decisions based on competing with a man to say, I can make decisions based on the earth just as good as man can. And both of them making death, destruction decisions based on we're living in it. And they're making these decisions. So we need to see that a woman's place was never to go out and leave the house. Never was. Let's read. The book of Esther, chapter 1. We'll start at verse 10. On the seventh day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded his servants, his aide, all these chamberlain, that serve in the presence of Ahasuerus the king, to bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and the prince her beauty, for she was fair to look on. Look not on her beauty. Proverb taught you that in 6th chapter. Don't let her be taken with your eyelid. This spirit had another purpose. It didn't want to see a man telling her what to do when she having her own feast among her own women. Because when you got that many women together can do their own thing, that's perverting that's taking place too. And they care nothing about what a man's trying to tell them to do. But the Queen Vesta refused to come. And the king commanded by his chamberlain. Therefore was the king very angry, and his anger burned in him. He was full of wrath. He's burning up on the inside. I'm the king, sitting upon the throne. I made her my queen, and she refused to come to me that I can show her off. You see, you let the women go to the store to wear their own appearance, their own attires. They buy it without your presence being there. But there are all other women present in there with them. One encouraged another, and another one encouraged another. And get this, buy this. Oh, the men will be just falling all over you. You put that on. This is what was going on here. Remember, these are not Hebrew women. They're Egyptian women. In the spirit of the Queen of Heaven, who they worship. Let's read on here. Then the king said to the wise men which knew the time, for so was the king matter toward all that knew law and judgment. Something got to be done here. We got to deal with this spirit that is openly rebelling against the king authority with his aide, his servant, to inquire of his queen, and she refused him because she was having her own feast. So they asked, what shall, verse 15, what shall we do unto Queen Vesta according to the law, because she had not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlain? The king had no authority here no more with the queen. It was gone. So here go the Mennonites and the Persians, the princes of his provision, asking the king concerning this deed that was done by the queen. Verse 17. And this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all the women. Now, let me open up your mind to the spirit of imagination. Because in the book of Genesis, chapter 6, Yahweh had to judge that dispensation of people because every imagination of man's mind was only evil continually. And that was the women also among the men. There was only evil continually. Now, to open up your mind, they trying to deal with what happened here. When they said, shall come abroad unto all the women. That spirit from their time that the king had to deal with has made it to our time in the women today. And the women today don't want no man to tell them what to do or how to do it. Because it's 8 to 9 women to one man. They only need to find one man that's void of understanding to fulfill their sexual desire, to please in bed, and get up and go their way and don't have nothing to do with that man if they don't want to, because they can last another 2-3 days even if they find another woman. They don't care. They're feasting in their own party because the spirit here is 7 times worse than the spirit was back there then. When an unclean spirit goes out of man seeking rest and find none, it comes back into itself and says, I will return from where I came. And when it comes, it finds its garnish and the person think they're in their right mind, man or woman. Then goes about that spirit to take 7 more spirits, worker, wicked, working, wicked, more than the first one. And the last state of that generation is worse than the first. We in the last state of the generation, where the spirits has multiplied and taken on more spirit. So what you're reading here in the book of Esther is 7 times worse. Way worse than you're dealing with one spirit. You're dealing with legion of spirits in these women. When they entertain themselves with the desperate housewife and stuff, I see it on my phone for a reason. Couldn't believe it. My phone will show commercials of these things taking place because we don't have no TV. This is what we got right here for the ministry and paying our bills. The phones show all commercials of everything almost now. And it behooved me to see that they can make a movie calling the women desperate housewife. But you look at these whores sitting there and they're talking about within their own setting and their men's wives talking that way. Looking that way. Acting that way. So that means they must have a Ahab as a husband. Because they're not Hebrew women. They're not daughters of Sarah. They're Egyptian women. They talk like, look like, act like, and go to church like every other woman would go. But they're familiar spirits. The demon working inside of them. Legion. So let's read on here. These men had to do something with the deed that the queen had did before the king. And the spirit today is doing this before the man, which should be Lord over them. Should be noble. He should be the master over them. And he should rule with righteousness and love and gentleness and nourishment to comfort her and strengthen her. And we'll get to that. That we're going to get to. Let's read on. For the deed, verse 17, for this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all the women, so that they shall despise their husband. And you can see the spirit come up right fast. You say one thing wrong to them and they'll show you a spirit come right up and despise you for even asking the question. For even telling them something to do. For even telling them or instructing them how you want something to be done, they'll despise you. That is here today. You're not reading this concerning their time. I'm reading this concerning your time. What you're dealing with right now. This woe is unto you. What spirit is in the midst of you. Because she's not a Hebrew woman. Despise their husband in their eyes. In their eyes. When it shall be reported. The king commanded the queen to be brought in before him. But she came not. You can't command me to do anything. You can't tell me to do anything. I ain't got to do anything you tell me. I don't have to come in because you called me. I don't have to answer the phone if you call me. I answer when I get ready. If I tell you to go, you go. You get away from me. These are the spirits that can work in a vessel that is unclean. In the first woe I told you, if a woman don't have her head covering, she's not a praying woman that fear Yahweh. You see, even the Catholic knew to control their women, they had to cover their head and keep them in a humble setting that they can be servant unto the church. They couldn't let them glory in their hair because then no flush would have got nothing done in how great they is today. with the spirit that is in them, in wickedness and pervertedness and sodomites. But the women have their head covered, that the man can tell them what to do, how to do, when to do it. And this is what the queen, the women today, you can't tell them none of that because they ain't going to cover their head. The Mennonite women tried to cover their head part way and stuff. Most of them covered. The Amish women, part way, will the thing sit back there and stuff. Try to cover their head. But they're subject to their husband. You can see that. The Mennonite women, subject to their husband. You can see that. The Muslim women, with their head covered. You can see that. They're subject to their husband. And they subject when they got 2 or 3 wives in the midst of them. They still subject to that one man. And you can see how all the Arabs women and Africa women, all these women that is any kind of set of ministry of Islam or Hebrew, they have their head covered. Because they want to be subject to that man, because they don't want to lose their prayer line with their creator. In case the man fails them, they got a prayer line with their first husband. He's only their second husband. And if the second husband failed them, they got a first husband to watch over them and keep them. And if he want to take them, he'll take them because they were trustworthy in him. They trusted him. They relied upon him. They had confidence in their making creator, Abba Yahweh. Let's read on. Verse 18. Likewise shall the ladies of Persian and of Media say this day unto all the king prince which have heard of the deed of the queen, thus shall arise too much contempt and wrath. And you think you ain't dealing with contempt and wrath today? The Spirit has made it to the women today. As I said, they won't answer you right, and they ain't going to talk to you right with no respect. You don't have respect because you're not serving your Creator with your head covered. You're not walking in righteousness and truth. And you took a strange woman that you never seen before and you believed what she said to you. And you took fire to your bosom and you got burned. If you wait upon Yahweh, he shall renew your strength. And if you wait upon him, he will marry you off as a father do the daughter. And we're all daughters unto our Maker. And when he shares, he'll share us with one another that he know will do his will, like Elizabeth and Zacharias. But we must come into holiness and righteousness of sanctification, to abstain from fornication and adulteries, to get away from all the filthiness of the flesh and spirit. We must come to the fear of Yahweh to execute judgment upon the wicked and the unholy. We must do these things. Because if you spare to speak the truth in judgment, Satan ain't going to spare you to condemn you, to destroy you. For the thief come not but to steal, kill, and destroy. Yeshua said, I come that you may have life and life more abundantly. So Hebrew women, I encourage you to stay the course in righteousness and truth. Keep your head covered. Let your husband that fear Yahweh, reverence Yahweh, have his way in righteousness and truth, and you learning from him how to be at home. That you can teach your daughters the same way and bring them up in the way they should go. So when they get old, they won't depart from Yahweh. Now let's read on here. If it please, verse 19, the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the law of the Persian and of the Medes, not be altered, that the queen come no more before the king, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she. And when the king decree which he shall make shall be published throughout all his empire, for it is great, all the wives shall give to their husband honor, both to great and small. They executed judgment upon the queen. They had to take that spirit away from that kingdom. And sometimes you have to leave that spirit in a woman, because she ain't going to stop battling against your soul. Until you get so vexed like Samson was, that you'll give away your strength. You just give up and quit. You need to understand these things was written for our learning. Because we're here in the time that we about to learn it, unless you die before your time. In misery and madness and foolishness and void of understanding, and no wisdom, no knowledge of Yahweh, your maker and creator, what he has delivered you from. But don't be overtaken by the lips of a strange woman. If you're in a covenant, stay in it. Let that woman fulfill her duty at home. Let's turn over to the book of Micah, minor prophet. Back over here. Right after or right before the book of Obadiah, Michael. And it's right after Jonah, the minor prophet. Chapter 2. We're going to see what took place right here. And this is going to be dealing with Jezebel too. I won't get to that today. Y'all, we're willing to pick up part 2. So if you hear part 2 of this right here, it's coming with Jezebel. That's the second woe. The third woe is the land. So understand the woe, woe, woe unto us as human beings. The warning. Chapter 2, Micah, we'll start at verse 7. Because I don't want to read this here, because this is what Jezebel did with Ahab. Ahab, the man. He was weak, just like the rest of the men are today, to let the woman rule and make decisions based on him. Based on him making decisions. Using his name to make decision with. We only need your name to take away our reproach. We don't need you. We can wear our own clothes and work and get our own bread. Pay our own bills. We don't need you. You didn't gave me what I wanted. I don't need you no more. So don't trouble yourself trying to tell me what to do and how to do it. That's the attitude and behavior of the Egyptian women, of the enticed woman of Delilah, in the book of Esther, dealing with the queen, Vashti. This is what's taking place. But we're going to read this here in verse 7. O you that are named the house of Jacob, is the spirit of Yahweh strengthened? Are these his doing? No, it's not. Let's see what his doing is. Because this is what takes place when it's not his doing. From chapter 2 to 1 to 7. But I'm going to bring Ahab in this with Jezebel. And they're doing in part 2. And these his doing, do not my word do good to him or her that walk uprightly? Yes, it does. That's a question being asked to you. You should answer that question. Yes, it has done good to me. Ephesians 5:9, for the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness, righteousness, and truth. Yes, it has done good to me. Yes, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, and peace, and long-suffering, meekness, kindness, temperance. Against such, the law is not there, because the law was not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless. So yes, your word has done good to me. Yes, your word has kept me from snares and traps. And when I got wounded, yes, your word healed me and set my feet back upon the solid rock. Yes, your word has done good to me, and everything I've said and done is a witness and is a testimony in my salvation. Yes, your word did something good for me. It delivered me from Egypt, from the house of bondage, and brought me into a land that I can dwell in peace and safety. Yes, your testimony should be yes when you ask that question. Let's read on. Even late, my people is risen up as enemies. You put off the robe with the garment from them that pass by secretly, as men averse for war. You're taking off your robe. Now you finna go and deal with something else here, as man advice for war, changing appearance, doing something that only men of war do when they want to be somewhere else where there's no war at, or they want to be somewhere where there's war at and they leaving a place of gathering. Let's see how this take place here, that you can understand what the queen did over in the book of Esther, Vashti, in the midst of all those women that the Medo and Persian men were trying to put those women back in their house, in their place, by the judgment of the law. The judgment of the law. Now, you may say that, well, we're not up under the law. We're up under your grace. Well, that grace is not of Yahweh. That's of you and the scribes. What you're up under is mercy. There's no grace seat, but there's a mercy seat. And you sit upon that mercy and you're being judged. And mercy is judging this for the rest of the women, because they don't want the rest of the women to become like these women with the queen had already prevailed against. Entice them to be like her. Let's read on. Verse 9. The women of my people have you cast out from their pleasant houses. The men's did this. That's the woe be unto you, man. The men's did this. They cast the women out. Get out. Go get a job. This dispensation of time. Go get a job. We need more income coming in. You done forgotten, because you void of understanding, that once you put them out, you can't get them back in. Once they take on that spirit, you have lost them. And if the one come back in, they'll come back in changed, not the way they went out. Because you needed them, and you required them to leave their pleasant home. Or you didn't make their home pleasant for them to stay in and guard the house of the children. You did this, and you reap what you have sowed. Because all the rest of the women got this same spirit. Let's see. The women of my people have you cast out from their pleasant houses. From their children have you taken away my glory forever. And when you tell a woman to go out and get a job, you're taking her away from her children. Once she didn't bear children for you and stuff, the children, you and her are supposed to bring them up in the way they should go. But if you the head going out to work to help get food and clothing and shelter that you have need of and stuff, then do not take away from her the work that need to be done until you get home. Because if you do, and you put her out, the house divided against itself cannot stand. Division gonna take place, contention gonna take place, argument gonna take place. Because a woman has no more esteem, no more glory in her dwelling place. She's out trying to labor on behalf of paying bills. You overloaded yourself with the cares of life. You overloaded yourself because you coveted after possession. You wanted more things that you didn't have need of because you coveted after it. And then when you covered after it and you called them toys on behalf of you, you idolized those toys. And then when a woman go out and get her toys, she idolized her toys. And the only thing you do is stand in the house to pay bills, to come together when it's needed. But there the children are left to themselves, and Satan is making them go through the fire, and they offer up themselves as a human sacrifice to sin. Because you didn't know the hour of your visitation. When you took her out of her house, she could not become quiet. But the law of the purging made sure she stayed in a house that the rest of the man can see this. But over in here, you took her out. You sure had to deal with some of these women from the spirit that the man did this right here. So when Paul came dealing with the assembly of the gathering of the people that you call the church, let's go over here in 1 Corinthians chapter. Because this thing is done in the old as well as the new. There's nothing new under the sun. You seeing it, and you might not believe it, but you can tap your own Bible, you can discard. But it's here because I'm reading out of yours. I'm reading out of King James Version 1611, the original. So there'll be no error in understanding. That you may understand that you have error in life in your own ways and attitude as a man. That's your woe. That's your woe. And the woman now is bearing the woe of herself because an enticing spirit then took over her. She worshiped the queen of heaven. She don't worship the creator of heaven and earth. She worshiped idols and images, vanity of life. And her body now is become to her as a goddess, a sex goddess, to be desired by all men, except for the 7,000. And praise Yahweh, I'm one of them. That's not going to bow down my knees to the image of Baal. Not going to give my birthright, my inheritance, over to strange flesh. I made a covenant with one wife. I didn't get married until I was 56. I stayed married to Yahweh until he shared me with one. I only wanted one. Just one that had the love for Yahweh as much as I did. One going to understand her calling, her ministry, and her place. And I cherish and nourish that one and bring her up in the way of love and kindness and goodness because I want to be brought up that way. And he did it to me. And I should be able to do the same unto her. And I do it in great reverence of Yahweh and her. In the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 14, verse 33. For Yahweh is not the author of confusion. This is in the assembly of the saints of Corinth. Paul had to say that Yahweh is not the author of confusion. There's confusion going on in there. A lot of things is taking place in the midst of the assembly. And Yahweh is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all the churches of the saint, the assembly, the congregation of the saint of peace. Well, the way you're going to have peace in the assembly of the saint, you're going to have to execute judgment. Verse 34. Let the women keep silent in the assembly, in the church. Let them keep silent. For it is not permitted unto them to speak. It's not allowed for them to speak in the assembly. Because a woman can speak and she'll get in the emotion and feeling of her own words and don't know when to be quiet. Her tongue is loose. She don't know how to tame it once it get loose. And she will learn anything from the assembly. She got a husband to learn it from. If she don't have a husband to learn it from, that's when the shepherd, supposed to be the good shepherd, in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, whatever question she asks, he got witness to what he's saying and the answer that he's giving. So there's no folly taking place in the midst of the assembly, no mischief taking place in the midst of the assembly, because it's done in decent and in order, in righteousness and truth. So here we are. It's not permitted unto them to speak. I mean all of them. Plural. All of them. It's not permitted for them. More than one. Not just talking about one woman. Talking about all the women. It's not permitted for them to speak. But they are commanded to be under obedience, as also said the law. So when the king did his decree and put that out, he put it in the law and judgment throughout his kingdom. And Yahweh has placed this in his kingdom. That a woman, if she gonna go forth, verse 35, and if they will learn anything, let them ask their husband at home. Because that's their place at home to speak. That's where they're supposed to speak and ask all these questions at. Not in the assembly. Not in the congregation. Not when the women got their own course going in the so-called church building. Not when the men's up here doing this and the women are doing this. That is in the spirit of the queen. In the church house. And that's why all these things are taking place in our time. Because it's in the hand of Yahweh to execute judgment upon the unrighteous. But it's also in our hand to execute judgment upon the unrighteous. Know you not that the saints going to judge the world? And if the world going to be judged by us, we're supposed to know how to judge these matters? And you're not judging no matter. You let matters come and take you right out of this world. And you're dying before your time. Because you took fire to your bosom and don't know you was going to get burned. You allowed Jezebel and Delilah and Queen Vesta to take place in your surrounding. And it made you an Ahab. Either one of these spirits will make you an Ahab. Make you a man void of understanding. And don't have a backbone to speak the truth to a female before her face. To say she's a rebelling heifer. To say that she's a disobedient woman. And that her guest is the chamber of death. And that you will do anything to destroy your headship. man. Because Satan has made man her enemy. Not him. Only Hebrew woman that fear Yahweh is his enemy. Her enemy. A Hebrew woman that fear Yahweh know who her enemy is. It's not flesh and blood. It's not personal. She don't get offended by when a man look at her and gaze at her and stare at her and stuff because her head is covered and she's dressed. There's no nakedness appearing to her. None of these things are there. They look at her as a gazing stock. Gaze upon her because her head is covered. And she don't have tight pants on, skirts on, split on, wigs on her head, stuff with locks of hair hanging down that is false, eyelids that are bigger than her eyes, claws on her nails that she go and get false nails to put upon her to look like a beast out of the jungle. These are the kind of women that got Solomon in trouble in his old age. Freakish and outlasting women that made him make all these groves for the Queen of Heaven. You see, you can't stay with a woman that rebelled. If you stay with her, at the end, you will die void of understanding. Once she rise up against you and rebel and don't want to do the things that are pleasing in Yahweh's sight, you're left to yourself. But if you got the word of the Spirit, you can leave her and her rebelling spirit. And you can come to your Maker and Creator. And He will either take her away or change her in the matter that she repent and turn from her evil and wicked ways and want to come back and serve you in the house where she's supposed to be. Not on a job. You can't let her go to a job and say she repented. She's still wearing her own clothing. She's still paying her own bills. She's still doing all those things that she want to do. When she repents, she turns. She's not doing none of those things no more. She have came back into her house where her children should have been brought up in the way she should go by her and her husband. So, if it's not permitted for them to speak, listen what they say here. At home, answer her at home, for it is a shame for a woman to speak in the church. How did Jezebel get in there and start speaking in the church of Laodicea? That's what we're going to talk about, because I want to give you this first. I want to show you this first because she's in every church almost. Because Ahab, men that are weak, feeble-minded, want that money, filthy lucas, want to let these women rule them and don't care what happened to the people in the midst of them. Weak men that don't have a standard in these days that we're living in. When the enemy come in like a flood, the Spirit of Yahweh shall lift up a standing against him. Because they're hirelings. They care not for the sheep, they care for wages. That's why there can't be no standard. So when this take place right here, Jezebel has taken it over. Let's read on. Question, what? Came the word of Yahweh out from you, or came it unto you only? Only. No. It came out from him to correct everything among them. And this is why Yahweh is not the author of confusion. He set this back in order through his apostle that was telling them about what was going on. If any man think himself to be a prophet or spiritual, let him acknowledge that the things that I write unto you are the commandments of Yahweh, Yeshua. So you can't get around it, Paul saying. It was commandment of who you confess you're saved by. And if you love me, keep my commandment. And if you don't keep his commandment, you ain't saved by it. So that means you are a wolf in sheep clothing. That's all. You're a wolf. There's no in between. And a wolf devours the sheep. Because a howling see the wolf come and flee. Because he's a howler. He's only there for the money. And the wolf there is for the meat. Not for the money. He's there to defile the flesh. Sodomites, men having men's in the church. Church preachers being caught with other men's in the church. Hold'em is in the church everywhere. The spirit of nakedness is in the church everywhere. Fashion and design is in there everywhere. Concert, ticket, rafters, everything. Idol worshiping, Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, everything come out of the church. But it came from the world first. And the church adapted it. That means there's no anointed vessels there. They don't want no prophet or apostle to be in there. Because they are the ones that lay the foundation that you got to stand on. And David said in Psalm 11 verse 3, if the foundation be destroyed, what can the righteous do? So when Paul said this right here to them, he was saying it because of a reason. He was trying to place the women back in their home where man had took them out from. And after they ceased, that same spirit came back in this dispensation when they brought the liberty, the statue from France, and placed it upon its stool and placed it in New York City. The liberty of the women began to rise back up. Because they are the spirit of iniquity in an idol that a woman will worship faster than she will worship her creator. Because a Hebrew woman is lively and strong. She gonna worship Yahweh Almighty. She gonna fear Yahweh Almighty. But you take an Egyptian woman and you take these spirits of woe, woe, woe. They gonna worship Satan in the disguises that he transformed into to put before them to worship him and bow down to him. Because they're void of understanding. And Yahweh has left him to eat the fruit of their own doing. That's why this is taking place. Verse 38. But if any man be ignorant, let him be ignorant then. Paul was not trying to force and make his way to be acceptable to any man that was ignorant. And any man that is ignorant don't see what is happening in these buildings that are called the assembly of the Most Highs, saved by Jesus Christ, saved by the blood of the Lamb. It's the worst place sin is gathering in today because the women are out of place. The church women are out of place. Let's read on here. We're going to go over here to 1 Timothy. And if the women are out of place, what I'm reading to you is what's supposed to be read and kept every day as they come together. Chapter 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 7. Now we already see Paul done told this to Corinth. He done told this to them. But the women was taken out of their place by the men. And the men's trying to put the women back in their place. By the Spirit, not by force, but by the Spirit. Not by trying to exact authority over them, but letting the authority of Yahweh's Spirit come in them. So they will have a resting place in Yeshua. And they will understand the head of the woman is the man. And the man is not supposed to abuse that authority that he have over the woman or lie and deceive her, misuse her, because Yeshua don't do it to the man. Yeshua don't put his authority over the man to beat him up and mess him up and have him fall into the snares and trap of the devil. Let's read on. 1 Timothy chapter 2 verse 7. Whereunto I am ordained a preacher and apostle. I speak the truth in Yeshua and lie not. A teacher of the Gentile in truth and verity. I will therefore the man pray everywhere. I dealt with the head covering. I dealt with faith. So if you listen to my podcast, you will understand what I have said already. If you got ears to hear what the Spirit is saying. And you will see why you don't hear me trying to teach on it, because it's damnable. Faith. There's no foundation. The apostle didn't lay it, neither did Yeshua. Satan put that in by his scribe to take away truth and trust of Yahweh. He did his will upon his people with signs and wonder of evidence. Everything he did. Everything was evidence, was seen, was known. But faith is the evidence of things not seen. And that means you can't bear fruit and you can't do the works that you should be doing. Because if you do the work, it's going to bear fruit with evidence of things seen. And you be the first witness. Let's read on. He said, I will therefore the man pray everywhere, lifting up holy hand without wrath and doubting. So that means wherever man that say he's serving Yahweh, he has that place to lift up holy hand with his head being covered without wrath and doubting, because that's the will of Yahweh. The man pray everywhere. And when you're praying, you don't have doubts concerning who you're praying to or who looking at you while you're praying. Wherever you go, whatever you do, you should have a prayer line with your maker and creator through Yeshua HaMashiach that sets you free from this world of sin and death. In like manner also, that women adorn themselves in modest appearance, with shamefacedness, and what? Sobriety, not with broadened hair, or gold, or pearl, or costly array, but which become women professing godliness with good works. They're fruits. You're going to know them by their fruit. And when you see a woman professing her salvation, then you should see the work in her salvation, what fruit she's bearing according to this. As Paul says, it's not common, it's not proven that a woman be praying with her head uncovered. And if she don't cover it, let it be shorn and shaven. That's why you catch women shave their head and stuff. They're mostly sodomites, women, like a man. That's their sign to show you they're sodomite women. They don't care nothing about a man. They can become a man. But the women that will cover their head is the women that want to be grafted in. Want to be grafted in. Until what Yahweh gave his Hebrew women to do in the midst of him. His Hebrew men to do in the midst of him. Ahab would never cover his head because Jezebel ruled over him. And Jezebel ain't going to cover her head and ain't going to stop showing her nakedness. And she ain't going to never stop ruling over a man. The dog licked her bone. The curse was upon her. Jezebel is a cursed woman, and every woman that take the spirit of Jezebel is a cursed woman. Every woman that take the spirit of Delilah is a cursed woman. Every woman that take on Queen Vesta is a cursed woman. And that's After Yeshua then came and died and rose again, they still a cursed woman because they want to mend their ways and they're done. Let's read on. Verse 11. Let the woman learn in silence with all subjection, with all authority. That's what he was saying in Corinth. 14th chapter, verse 35. If they will learn anything, let them learn at home from their own husband. But while they're in the assembly, let them be quiet. That there be no confusion in the midst of the assembly, the church that you go to. Let's read on. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to use authority over the man. That's where Jezebel come in at. No woman in the right mind want to do that over a man. It's not given to her. And she know that because she's in her right mind. It take a woman out of her mind to try to rule over a man. She's not equal to a man in strength or body. Her body's not made like a man in neither way. So why would she want to rule over something that she cannot become or make herself into? We can't make ourselves into Yeshua. He's in heaven. We on earth. We will receive him in another body as he is, so we shall be. But not while we're in the earth. He ruled over us. He ruled in us. And I've never been mistreated by Yeshua. And I never say he was a hard man. He was a strict man. His ways are strict. Strive ye to enter into the straight gate, for narrow is the way to lead to life and to be few to find it. He's a straight man, strict. But he gave me what I needed for my soul, and that was rest in him. Come unto me, all ye that labor and heavily laden, and I will give you rest. Take up my yoke and learn of me, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light, and you shall find rest for your soul. That's why I don't try to serve two masters. And that's why I don't have no fellowship with the world. And that's why I don't want to meet no strange woman on the street in any dark alley, in any place that the spirit of witchcraft and sorcery and hold'em may try to overtake me. That's not my dwelling place to be there. It's to be at home with my wife and my son, and to know that Yahweh's eyes is in every place beholding the good and evil, that I won't escape no secret thing that has taken place. You got place to repent and turn from it, but you ain't got no place to escape from what your deeds have called you to do. So understand this in the midst of salvation. Go to him. Call upon him. Seek his face while he's near. But do not let you or yourself fall into the snare of the devil, because the blind, leaders of the blind, they'll both fall into the pit. This is what Paul said. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to use authority over the man, but to be in silent. And Jezebel is not silent because she ruled and seduced the man. Like I said, we'll get back to Jezebel. But I want to make sure this is established here in part 1. To see where this spirit is at. Because we didn't deal with 2. Woe the man, woe the woman. Gonna be the land. The third one, with Jezebel taking part of that. Let's read on. For Adam was first formed, then Eve. Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression. Notwithstanding, however, she shall be saved in childbearing. Salvation for the woman come through childbearing. That's why Hannah was petitioning Yahweh all the time in prayer and supplication to have a child so she wouldn't be barren her life at that time of dispensation. And Yahweh heard her prayers and supplication and gave her husband, Eli, a son, and the first prophet that was ordained to come forth to know the voice of Yahweh speaking as Moses did, was Samuel. So here go this right here. In childbearing, if they continue in the truth and love and holiness with sobriety. Now they got to continue in this right here. Continue. There's nowhere that a woman can teach and use authority over the man. There's nowhere that Paul or Peter gave them place to teach in any matter over the man. Let's go to the book of Titus. Titus, chapter 2. Verse 1. Titus chapter 2 verse 1. But speak you the thing which becomes sound doctrine, that the aged man be sober, grave, temperate, sound in truth, in love, and patient. The aged woman likewise. And this is the woman of age. And you see them today of age, and their hair is cut all kinds of way, even dyed with purple and other color in their hair and stuff. And this is the spirit of sorcery and witchcraft through her mother Jezebel, the spirit of Jezebel. And that's why most men never overcome the spirit of Jezebel, because she didn't got in the place of authority. She's not going to give it up. This is what's going to take place here that Paul said. The aged women likewise, that they be in behavior as becoming holiness. Not false accuser, not given to much wine, teacher of good things. Now, a woman has not authority over a man. What they supposed to be teaching then? This is what they're supposed to be teaching. That they may teach the young woman to be sober, to love their husband, to love their children. When the aged woman no longer have this wisdom and a sound mind to teach this to the young women, then the young women are left to roam in the spirit of Hodom, in the spirit of iniquity, in the spirit of witchcraft, in the spirit of rebellion, because the aged women are dying off and have left. The ones that coming up under them are so messed up on cocaine, crack, meth, that they can't teach anything. And the women in the church are so broken because Satan done cut them up every kind of way it is. And and they're suffering from all kinds of sickness and disease. So who is left to teach them? The Hebrew women. But they won't come to the Hebrew women. They're afraid to come to the Hebrew women to ask counsel of them how to behave myself at home, how to stay at home and obey my husband. Because if I do, the first thing they got to do is cover their head. If they want to learn anything. Let's read on. Verse 4. That they may teach the young woman to be sober, to love their husband, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keeper at home, good, obedience to their own husband, that the word of Yahweh be not blasphemed. And it's been blasphemed today in the churches where women walk in, have no head covering. When women come home and can tell the man what to do and what they ain't going to do. When the women can do whatever they want to do and wear whatever they want to wear to go to these places and stuff, then the word is being blasphemed. Now, where I dwell up here in the mountains stuff, there's no one around us. Praise Yahweh. But there's neighbors within the midst of us. And you can hear they shoot their guns sometime. But we don't hear them that much. That's their liberty. Man live by the sword, he'll die by the sword. If he's living by a gun, a bullet is not going to stop a spirit from coming into your house and taking over. But man in fear will think a bullet and a gun will save him from the things that are going to come upon the world. Because they're acting out of TVs and movies. And they think whatever come upon them, they got a weapon to defend themselves at that time of defense. But the weapon is Yahweh to come up under him, to come into his place of refuge. But no bullet can fight off a spirit from entering into your mind to possess you in body and soul. And you can shoot some of these people today, and a bullet goes straight through them, and they'll still come at you. Or bounce off of you, and they'll still come at you. So, I praise Yahweh that we know we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principality and wickedness, rule of darkness, and high places. We rule and we reign in Yeshua, not in the flesh. So praise Yahweh. I want to give that to you in case you heard this in this program. And I want to say also in the last podcast that took place, my wife, you seen her kind of slumber over and stuff, the heat from our wood burning stove. That day it was cold. And we had the fire going. And the heat came direct toward her sitting beside me over here. And she was cold and she got warm. And warmth and cold will put you to sleep. It'll make you wrestle with your flesh trying to stay awake. When you're tired, we work here. But we work in the love of Yahweh in a place of refuge that we dwell in. Because we don't see what our neighbors doing. We got spread out land. And praise Yahweh, we have our place of refuge in him. So we not caring about what they do out there, because neighbors not what the commandment said to the neighbors back there then, love your neighbor. These people don't want you to love them. They don't want to communicate with you. They don't want to talk to you. They judging you according to appearance. And Yeshua said, judge not according to appearance, but judge righteous judgment. My appearance and color of skin to some people offend them. They take it personal that they ask them questions in this day and time. Now we know what happened in the 60s and 50s and the 40s going back 100 and 200 years ago. We know what happened. That's not a mystery. But in this day and time, you got that same spirit operating in people, that vessel. They open themselves up for hatred, and hatred walk right in. They open themselves up for homosexuality, and they walk right in. Whatever they open themselves up to in this day and time, they walk right in. So we see that and understand that. And that's why I said the things around us is from these people. Just like it would be in the city. We don't hear it often. But they have guns and they get out and shoot it. That's their privilege. They're on private property as we own private property. We don't disturb them. They don't disturb us. But when it comes to it, they will need us and we won't need them. Because we are the light that sit upon a hill that cannot be hid. So I pray that you understand. Don't be disturbed by what you're hearing. It's not affecting me and haven't affected me since I've been here. And I'm the only black man in the presence of all white Caucasian people up in the mountain. There's some come and go. But none of them has caused me to tremble of fear of my salvation as a man. I stand in the presence of Yahweh. And the angels have charge over me and my family. So understand this. I read on. That the word be not blasphemed. As I said that, you understand this. And I know that I've been here and I know I've been reading to you out of the scripture. But I know one thing also, that Yahweh is a spirit, and those that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. That's why I try to get up early and start this ministry before these swine flush get up and start their ministry. Because I know that you can't put that which is holy before swine flush. They will rent you. They'll turn around and rent you. You can't stop them. You can't make them. Just like you can't make Jezebel. She'll rent you. But you can't execute judgment in the midst of them. And that's why the law was not made for the righteous man, but for the lawless, the disobedient, the murderer, the liar, all the ones that the law has to govern because their deed are unrighteousness. So I praise Yahweh for this time because I will continue this on. Because we're dealing with woe, woe, woe to the man and the woman in the land. Because the three spirits that have possessed the women that are not Hebrews is destroying mankind. I told you, women was not a threat to Satan. He just get his men and plant his seed in them and look for his offspring to come out of them. For they can continue on the way of him. But Yahweh is looking for those Levites, priesthood, to bring forth children unto him and bring them up in the way they should go, so they won't depart from him. So I pray that you will have ears to hear and understand. I'll leave you right here in 1 Titus chapter 2, verse 5, that the word of Yahweh be not blasphemed in the conduct and behavior of the women. Because there's more to come of the women with the men and the land. Because if you can perceive the woe from the scripture will show you what spirit you're dealing with and what spirit you are. So you can come out of her, his people, her spirit. That you can come out of her, his people, and be not partaker of her sin, neither receive of her plague. Revelation 18, chapter verse 4. His people. His people got to come out of her, that female spirit of Jezebel and Delilah and Queen Vesta that has taken man and making him less than a man, the image and likeness of his creator. So stand fast, unmovable, always bound in the work of Yahweh, knowing that your labor is not in vain. Knowing that you're going to have to lift up a standard. Knowing that if you in salvation today, you got to work out your salvation with fear and tremble every day. Every day. If you see a new sun rise tomorrow, you still got to work out your salvation in fear and tremble. Because Yahweh is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. He changed not. That's why we sons of Jacob, are not consumed. We're not consumed. So know what is before you. Know what spirit you warn with. Don't be overtaken by a strange spirit that flattering with her tongues and her look. Women, stay honorable to your first husband and let him share you with your second husband, so you will have a righteous man by your side that you can learn from the will of Yahweh concerning the ministry, because it's not given to you to try to use authority over the man, neither teach man, but to be subject unto him in all things. Not some things, not most things, but all things. May the peace of Yahweh bless your home, that you got ears to hear what the Spirit is saying. Shalom and shalom.